First off, shout out to the comment section for inspiring this video. I'd seen that Joe Rogan and Terrence Howard did an interview, but it didn't really seem like anything was going to be worth looking into that I hadn't already addressed before. I had listened to a few of Terrence Howard's interviews and discussions in the past, and to be completely honest, he didn't really seem like he was saying anything that hadn't already been said before, and had been broken down in many different levels. It just seemed like it was new to people who are new to alternative information. So having been breaking down alternative information for some years now, it just seemed kind of basic. And after having watched the interview with Joe Rogan, it just confirmed everything. Like the people in the comment section on the last video, the mixtape, were saying, what it's seeming like is that Terrence Howard is being used to help usher in this in-between mode of understanding, and overstanding the universe overall. It's what I mentioned in a previous video, the unofficial narrative. So we can understand the official narrative of heliocentrism, telling you we live in the vacuum of space on a ball, and all of the other laws and theories, some of them are good, some of them are not, but overall the integrity of the system that was supported by those theories and by those laws still stands. And that's exactly what I was mentioning in reference to when I was putting out a lot of flat earth videos in the beginning, as far as this information being taken over, if not completely distracted from, to usher in a new version of interpreting reality. What I was saying in previous videos is that they were going to come in with this simulation theory interpretation of reality. Not saying that simulation theory is irrelevant, just saying whatever it is that these individuals, this system brings in, the point of it being a thing sold to the people is what controls the people. They can bring anything in. They can come at it from a hollow earth perspective, a holographic universe perspective, a simulation theory. It doesn't matter. What matters is that people are not thinking for themselves and not analyzing without being manipulated by a system that means to manipulate them. See, people like Terrence Howard are firmly planted in that system, no matter how much he says in that interview that he's being pushed to the side, all of his patents, all of his science, all of it's being laughed at, ridiculed, whatever it is. Neil deGrasse Tyson is not talking to him now. All of this gives you, or gives him, credibility in a sense. He already has the credibility of being a celebrity. So people want to follow that. They want to listen. That's a power that those individuals have. So teaming him up with Joe Rogan, who already has a power grid with his podcast, with his history of interviewing people who are relevant, scientists, relevant, obviously, like I said, to the mainstream narrative. Now, this unofficial narrative, which I mentioned in the past, is starting to come into view and is merging into the official narrative as the official narrative. And in order to do that, they need individuals who are trusted. Like I said in previous videos, people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's the most disingenuous person that you can ever talk to or see. He's just not likable in the slightest. So he has an expiration date. There's going to come a time where they're going to discard him as they discard everybody else. He's the fall guy for the old system. How you can recognize that is by seeing that he is the spokesman for the old system. He's an actor. He is supported by a comedian on his podcast, Star Talk. This is people who kiss his ass. He's surrounded by people who he needs his ass to be kissed in order to be believable. On his own, he's not, because he has an authoritative approach to intellect. His ego is bigger than this whole artificial universe that they're selling to the to the masses. His time is running out. And when that happens, they have to have people to replace them. So when I was mentioning their shift from the old world to the new interpretation of reality, when I was talking about simulation theory and the CERN program that they're selling, all of it was surrounding around this idea of energy, positive and negative forces, electric and magnetic, free energy, dark energy. All of these unknowns in the official narrative are now going to be repackaged and sold to the masses of people as the unofficial narrative to be the official narrative. But it was first sold to us through networks like the History Channel and their Ancient Alien program, forever seeding this idea of a holographic universe, simulation theory, Zecharia Sitchin teachings, all of this stuff that they can package very easily because they had already put it out there. This is what Terrence Howard is presenting to the masses of people as if it is the answer to how we interpret this universe. After watching that video, I got nothing but New Age vibes. The way he was speaking was very similar to how I felt when I was first coming into this information, the flower of life. Oh my God, how beautiful it was to see how this geometry is in everything. I was making sacred geometry water chargers. I mean, this was my life. This is who I was. It was it. It was the universe. It was the understanding. It was everything. And the excitement that was there was just beyond words. It was hard to even share a lot of this information. But over time, I started to realize that there was something missing. There was always something missing. No matter how different, no matter how real all this information felt, it was missing something. And I ended up running into a wall, the same kind of wall that the official narrative would run into. And then the rest of that discussion, the rest of that information would have to be backed up. It would be like presenting a main dish, but it was just a 2-ounce little steak. And since I didn't know the rest of the story, I had to surround that tiny little steak that I was serving to people and myself. I had to surround it with all of these extra side dishes that were just grandiose and colorful and flavorful and fillers. I had to fill the interpretation because the main dish, the centerpiece, the meat of the discussion, it wasn't it. As if there isn't it to be. And that is the infrastructure of the New Age community. That is what this unofficial narrative is selling, has been selling to people, and is going to be selling to people. We had the information on Tesla and the government taking his information and putting it in a closet somewhere and knowing about free energy, knowing about the electric and magnetic, knowing about all of this stuff that was out there, but we couldn't pin it down. We knew it was there. It felt good. We knew it was real, but we just couldn't pin it down. When you go into these New Age communities, this is what they do. This is what they're designed to do. They're designed to help you pin down the unpinnable. No different than the mainstream media helps you pin down the unpinnable in their way to manipulate you. No different than the New Age community does it to manipulate you for another purpose. Whether it's manipulation to get you to think, act, and feel a certain way through malevolent means, or whether they're doing it with a benevolent approach, it doesn't matter. It's manipulation. So, long story short, to kind of summarize the gist of what I got from the Terrence Howard discussion, basically he's repackaging and selling Tesla-type information to the masses of people as if it's the end all be all to what we all need to do, what we all need to get behind. And what I was saying with all of that is that once that becomes the focus, the norm, all of the other things that we are dealing with that need to be addressed will fall to the wayside. Because now we have this new, forward thinking, not controlled, new age approach to interpreting the reality. This will make everything make sense. It's another hamster wheel. And here we are again with another actor. Another actor. That's why when I was reading the comments on one of my videos asking me to break this down, the first response is, why should I give a shit about another actor talking to Joe Rogan? As if it matters. It wouldn't even matter if he wasn't an actor and he just happened to be talking about this. Like a Rupert Sheldrake or whoever else is out there talking about this, Zechariah Sitchin and all this other stuff that's out there. It wouldn't matter. Because how they're selling it is how they can control people. This is why they need actors out there. Terrence Howard is just the Cat Williams of the science community. Cat Williams was the Cat Williams for Hollywood and the media. But each one of these groups are used to control people, and they have their own forms of manipulating. And whether they're working with that system or not doesn't matter. Because like I said before, it's what they do with this information. It's what they do with what's happening. Because the people don't know how to do for themselves. They need leaders. They need leaders to follow. And when you have nothing, what people present to you to follow doesn't have to be much. It just has to, on the lowest scale, it just has to feel good. It has to sound good, feel good. Yeah, I get that. I've heard that before. I've watched a few Ancient Alien episodes. I've watched the History Channel and the Universe, all these documentaries on Netflix. I know what's going on. I was there. I'm not speaking from outside of myself. I was there. I thought I knew everything. I had every episode of The Universe. I had seen all of them. I had read Zechariah Sitchin's book. I listened to all the Alan Watts that I could bear, that I could listen to forever. I saw all the breakdowns of the Anunnaki, the ancient history, all this stuff. I knew it. I knew all this stuff was. And when you know it, the next thing you need to do is just tell somebody else to reinforce what you know. That's why it's so exciting. But after a while, those stories become no different than the story that's sold to us about the heliocentric universe. It just becomes another story. And what matters is what's being done with that story. So some of the main things that were repeated in that interview was that Terrence Howard has a thing with gravity. So he's using gravity as his punching bag in order to add credibility to his approach. Very similar to how flat earthers want to destroy and debate to the umpteenth degree people who believe in the heliocentric universe, the ball earth model, in order to reinforce their foundation, their approach, how they are seen. So the theory of gravity, anybody in the public eye who's taking on gravity or anything that's been accepted as the law, the way we interpret reality, anybody who takes that on and says, no, this is bullshit, in the slightest, even if it's a little bit, you're going to listen to them a little bit more because you want to know what's going on, but also you want to know where they're getting this confidence from. What do you have to bring to the table in order to discredit something like gravity? Who the fuck are you? So this is why he mentions the killer. I'm going to kill gravity a number of times in there. But he's still approaching that idea from a heliocentric mindset. He's very much talking about that old style interpreting of reality, where everything is based upon these planets that are sold to us by NASA, by the heliocentric historians. He's still selling that science because that science sets the foundation to what he's presenting. He's focusing on technology with a dash, a sprinkling of sacred geometry, the flower of life, platonic solids. All of this just outside of the outskirts of what the mainstream masses are comfortable with. He's just on skirting, just on the edge of it. And that's what needs to be done in order to get people to get behind it. On top of that, this is not a white man saying this information on the platform of arguably the most powerful white man in mainstream media, Joe Rogan. So people in our community, many who don't have this understanding, who don't have this information, who never delved into the New Age information, sacred geometry, any of that stuff, hearing him speak these words is enough to get behind him. Many people in our community are just happy to see an intelligent so-called black man, which is why it's easy to control people in our community. So he's got that going for him. He's got his patents. He's got a bunch of patents that he said were taken by people like Sony and all these other big corporations that are out there. They're using his patents for whatever it is that they're doing. He's not getting credit for it. So this is how he's painted as an outsider from the establishment. Neil deGrasse Tyson is obviously the establishment. He reached out to him. He's powerful enough to talk to him and get a response, but only up until a certain degree. He spoke with Neil deGrasse Tyson's people or him directly. Point being, it hit a wall and they closed that door on him. So now he won't even be respected by Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is something to flex about. So in his approach, he's coming at it from this, with his patents, he's coming at everything from this energetic interpretation of reality. Like I said before, the electric and magnetic, this particle simulation understanding of reality. Attach the CERN program. Attach simulation theory. Attach Tesla. Mention Alan Watts. Mention Rupert Sheldrake. Mention the Anunnaki, Enlil. All these catchphrases, these terms that people have heard before who are in the know to some degree, adding credibility to his presence. Why are you here? You're just an actor. What makes you worth listening to? Well, I got patents. Well, I talk about this. I've done this. I've invented this. I've talked to this person. I have all this. I'm just like Tesla. I'm a black Tesla. Meanwhile, still selling the old programs, talking about reincarnation, heliocentrism, what these things that he's talking about how they would react on Mars, how the rotation of the Earth is affecting certain electric and magnetic frequencies that you could tap into, and all of this floaty theoretical bullshit that to the layperson makes you sound like Einstein. And that's why he's there. They know people are not going to follow the ones who are already in those communities, the Neil deGrasse Tysons. He doesn't have a leg to stand on anymore. He's not likable in the slightest. The only thing he has is this belief that he knows everything about the universe because he's the world's leading astrophysicist. How long can that go on? Just listen to me, trust me because I'm smart. I'm one of the smartest people in the... Get the fuck out of here. Terrence Howard also mentioned Billy Carson, and another name drop, and the as above, so below perspective, interpretation, reinforcing his approach, his stance, his existence. See, I know about people like Billy Carson. I know about what he talks about. And like I said before, Billy Carson, a part of the unofficial narrative, also shares the perspectives of Zecharia Sitchin from not from him, just saying that same storyline. Everything surrounds that. Everything is about this. Meanwhile, never addressing the heliocentric deception, never addressing any of that information. They stay well away from that stuff. Terrence more so stays away from that information because a lot of his approach, his breakdowns are based upon that old institution, those old theories, those old so-called laws, the old heliocentric, the gravity, the relativity, everything. He needs that as a stepping stone. The only thing is that he stopped stepping. He stepped off of an old broken interpretation, as many of us have done. We step out of this world where we are just ingesting all this information that is force-fed to us, and we start thinking for ourselves. What I did was I jumped into the New Age community and was surrounded by people who seemed to be thinking for themselves, but they were thinking for themselves about stories and information that had been pre-packaged, pre-thought, pre-chewed for them, that if repackaged can be sold back to the people to have the same effect on them as all of the information and all the belief systems that come out of the mainstream community, the mainstream control mechanisms. And this is exactly what's happening in the New Age community. Bringing Terrence Howard on the Joe Rogan Experience is just another way of bringing the New Age into the mainstream with a little dashing, a little sprinkling of the so-called black community. Because our community is going to look at him and just blindly support him. Look, we got a strong, powerful, black, intelligent black man. We need to support him. Never thinking about anything other than that. Those surface layer representations of that individual. Largely because we don't have any leaders out there. There's nobody to follow. People are so thirsty, so hungry for something, anything. And the system knows this. So all they need is an actor out there. So he'll sell to you what you're comfortable with. You're comfortable with sacred geometry. A lot of people can digest this stuff. Reincarnation. It's in your movies, it's in your music, it's in your stories, your books, it's in everything. It's in your religions. People can easily chew on that and step to wherever it is they want to be having them step. So he mentions that. He mentions the particle simulation, all this stuff that's already been seeded by the mainstream. He mentions Billy Carson, the as above, so below. He mentions how the earth is now angry and trying to get rid of us, so we need to do something to fix that problem. And he's got the answers for that. As if, once again, we are the center of all reality. You have to believe in this shit. It's insinuating that that's the reality. When he says things like that, it's also tapping into this idea of climate change and all these disasters that are being sold to people with this fear mongering that's out there in the mainstream and on the outside of the mainstream communities. He's talking about divinity and how he's come upon this information because he was put into a divine space, and that's when all this information opened up. And so he's tapping into the people who are religious minded, New Age minded. He's upping his likability with these communities. Whether he's doing this consciously or unconsciously is of no never mind. It doesn't matter. What matters is how he's affecting the minds of the masses. How people are going to see this. Because at the end of the day, the individual doesn't matter. Terrence Howard doesn't matter. Billy Carson doesn't matter. Tesla, they don't matter. It's how what they were talking about, what they were doing, is going to be used by the system that uses people and systems to control masses of people. That's what matters. So observe these individuals in the abstract. See what they are trying to repeat to get you to believe them, to get you to trust them. Then you'll be able to see where they're trying to get you to go. Terrence Howard going on the Joe Rogan Experience is where Hollywood meets the new age. It's bringing what I'm calling the unofficial narrative, it's bringing that to the surface to exist long enough for it to eventually become the official narrative. This is what these individuals are out there for. His power. He said something about his inventions, his patents. He came upon this information, this awareness at a dark time in his life, and he wasn't getting a lot of support. And he was actually going to use these inventions, these patents, to destroy humanity. He actually said this shit as a real thing. Yeah, I was going to use this. I was so mad. I was going to use this stuff to destroy humanity. Who the fuck are you? But the people who don't have an internal sense of power, of fire, they don't have that there. They're going to hear somebody say that and just know that he is powerful. He's powerful enough to destroy humanity. Oh my God, we must listen to him. We must follow him. Ridiculous. Now you know where this individual is. This is where his headspace is. Very similar to all these other people that they put out there for you to follow. These born again individuals. Russell Brand is another one. I was in a dark space. I was a drug addict. I was addicted to this, addicted to that. I was a sex addict. I was all this stuff. But now, here I am. I'm no longer that stuff anymore. And I'm this wonderful, trustworthy, born-again celebrity that has integrity now. I'm going against the grain. I'm going against the system. You can trust me. That's how they put these people out there. Terrence Howard is no exception. Billy Carson, no exception. These are the unofficial narrative pushers. So overall, the main takeaway I got from that whole interview was, this is the push again to appear to be moving away from the old world style of interpreting reality, the universe, and so-called evolving our consciousness into this interpretation of reality outside of how we've been manipulated by people who mean to control, the Illuminati, who took Tesla's information and put it in a vault somewhere and sold us fossil fuels and the banking industry and all this other stuff that keeps us down. They sold us that, but what were they hiding? What is all this free energy stuff? Had people salivating for this shit. This is what happened. This is what happened to me. This is what happened to a lot of people. You break out of that mentality of yelling at the system to change because you think that it's still worth a damn. You realize it's not worth anything. You open up to the New Age community and start to investigate this idea of oneness and as above, so below, and sacred geometry and electric and magnetic frequencies and all this stuff that creates the fabric of this reality. You see all this stuff. You understand all this stuff. And once you get to that point, it changes you. And if you don't keep going, if you stay comfortable with just not being who you used to be, you'll end up being another version of who you used to be, only with new stories, new toys, new gadgets, new presentations. And then you do to other people what was done to you by the system. This is the vibe I get from Terrence Howard. He's got a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of inconsistencies in the way he's observing things. These are these same inconsistencies that I had, that a lot of people have when they're going through these layers of letting go of the old and supposedly evolving themselves into I'm like using these words, but like a higher consciousness. seeing as the mainstream media as a lower NPC type consciousness. It's just another form of control. So, long story short, to end this all out, what's being sold to the masses through the mainstream media is imbalance. This is what it was sold to us with the patriarchal approach, this idea of the feminine aspect being less than the masculine. This is why so-called men rule the world, control everything. Now it's getting to a point to where the LGBTQ community, which could be also the way it's pushed out there to promote imbalanced nature, to promote inconsistencies, uncertainty in the minds of the individual, in the minds of the masses. But overall, it's imbalance, a broken nature, a broken system. And the core of what people like Terrence Howard are promoting, pushing, what's at the core of what they're selling to people is this idea of balance. Masculine, feminine, light, dark, electric, magnetic. All of this new age shit that many of us have been breaking down for a long time, that I've been talking about for years on this channel. It's being sold to people to be believed, in contrast to the imbalanced nature of the mainstream. Selling you this idea of balance, this idea of something better, because this is so terrible. And once again, they can sell you that in-between approach while simultaneously downplaying, discrediting, and dismissing all of these other communities and these approaches that have been around for a while now. People have been talking about the not heliocentric universe publicly for almost 10 years now. Just my approach, just this latest mainstream approach, even acknowledging the flat earthers. Almost 10 years now. Longer than that for some people, but on average, it's been about 10 years now. To know that that's out there and not say anything about it is telling. To know that Joe Rogan, he knows his approach that he took with ivermectin and COVID and all that other stuff. He knows his approach with the moon landing and all that stuff. Joe Rogan knows all this stuff that he could ask Terrence Howard about. You see, they say nothing about it. Over almost 4 hours of discussion. Nothing. Two powerful individuals. Nothing spoken on those topics. That's another form of dismissal, deflection, downplaying, and largely why these individuals are brought onto the scene. Joe Rogan knows before these people come on to speak. They know what they're going to talk about and what they're not going to talk about. They speak before these interviews happen. His handlers know what will benefit their programs and what won't. And if you say what needs to be said, with more importantly, not saying what goes against those programs of control, what you don't say is actually more important than what you do say. Those are the only individuals who are going to be put on that platform, on that level of discussion to the masses. Terrence Howard is no exception. Billy Carson is no exception. They will push the unofficial narrative as far as they can take it. Like I said, whether they are working directly with those systems or not doesn't matter, because they will be chewed up and spit out when that system is done with them. When they want to do whatever it is that they're going to do, those individuals won't matter anymore. They'll be irrelevant. They don't need them right now. They're only out there helping to set the stage for whatever it is the man has to say. And the system is the man. These are just little peons. They're the ones being shut down by the man. Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't even want to talk to Terrence Howard anymore. He's shutting him down. So those are the people with power. Once those people start to speak, that's when other people start to believe, listen, trust. They don't need them. They just know that what they're on right now, how far they are willing to go right now, is beneficial to the overall scope that's going to be brought in these later years, these later discussions, the alien agenda, the new age agenda, all this other stuff, this human agenda, all this other stuff. They need to have those stories seeded even more, and they don't have that many people out there. Not everybody is watching Ancient Aliens. Not everybody's watching the History Channel. Not everybody's watching Gaia, the Gaia fucking network on Amazon. Nobody's watching that. This is why it's taking so long for these systems to work, to be brought into being. It's because they don't have enough people who are privy to this information. So if they pull the trigger too quickly, it's not going to be effective. So they need people like Billy Carson. They need people like Terrence Howard. They need people like all these people who were on TEDx, but they censored and their information was put to the side. And they need the Zecharia Sitchin. They need all this stuff that's out there. But what they need more is to people to be aware of this information. If it's just out there on its own, you might as well just be selling another religion and just sell belief. But they need people to, quote unquote, know. No, we know what it is. We see it. I can feel it. I was born with this information. I was reincarnated. I was supposed to be doing this in my last lifetime, but I didn't. So I came back to do it now. And I have all these memories from when I was born. We're all connected. We're all the same. We're however many little percentages away from monkeys. We're all the same thing. These are all things that were said in this interview. And when these things are said, these are stories. These are belief systems that are being pushed. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I got from this whole interview and this whole story. It's the unofficial narrative. The New Age merging with mainstream science, Hollywood merging with alternative information, the unofficial narratives, all to set the stage, all to set the tone for the next mind controls. And very similar to Neil deGrasse Tyson, Terrence Howard is backed by all of his inventions, his patents, his understandings of energy and the electric and magnetic balances of the universe, the theories that are questionable, gravity. I'm taking that on, I'm attacking this, and we will defeat this in order to bring in this 369 Tesla interpretation of reality. This is how it is. Neil deGrasse Tyson has his credentials. I am the leading astrophysicist of the universe. You listen to me because of who I am. I'm on TV. I've been on TV shows. I have my own podcast. I am the astrophysicist. Worship me. Honor me. That's where he gets his power from. You go on Joe Rogan, that's a power. You invent something, that's a power. You got patents, that's power. You want to attack gravity? Ooh, shit, that's power. You want to go against the grain? Power. All to put up this facade that you should pay attention. And the people who do not have the ability to think for themselves, they will do just that. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say on this interview. If there's anything else that you saw that was part of that interview, go ahead and drop it in the comment section and get some discussion going on that. But I don't really think there's anything else out there other than what I just discussed. That interview was just as cheap as having Neil deGrasse Tyson on Joe Rogan. Same shit, different day.